Did the Broncos make the right decision to move on from Justin Simmons as he returns to Denver this week? We're breaking it down. Plus, we're breaking down the Atlanta Falcons offense, how the Broncos defense matches up, and then how the Broncos offense and Bo Nix attacks this Falcons defense. We got Baldy joining us in just a couple minutes, and it all starts now. The Justin Simmons revenge game as he returns for the first time since being a member of the Atlanta Falcons. We're breaking it down today on the DNVR Broncos Podcast, live from the Toyota Lounge inside the DNVR Bar. Of course, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. And we are presented by Bet365. Use that code DNVR365. Deposit $10, place a $5 bet. And you're going to get $150 in bonus bets plus Altitude Plus, courtesy of Bet365. And of course, we're the DNVR Broncos Podcast. We got Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis, Henry Chisholm. You here behind the camera. And yours truly, Zach Stevens, rocking and rolling with you. Fellas, how we doing on this hump day?
It is hump day. Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. Do you celebrate?
How would you celebrate?
I don't know.
I know how. Would you like to tell us, Todd?
Whoa.
You just said you know how. I'm asking how.
No.
So.
You want to let me know?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm asking.
Okay, fine. You're
figure it
here.
out.
Do you want to let us know?
I mean, I could. We might get demonetized.
Well, never mind.
Celebrate
Don't do
this
that.
morning.
Don't we watch that commercial? Isn't that how we celebrate?
I thought it was more like Bluetooth activated.
Wow.
Oh,
my
boy.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing?
My apartment building, they're power washing the garage this week. So it's like a 4-day process and they divide it up. Today was my section's day, so I had to move my car before 8 a.m., which sucked. Made it to the gym for like a half hour and then I don't know. It hasn't been like a great start, but I'm moving at least.
How many days do you go to the gym like in a week?
Oh, it really varies. Like there'll be times where like I really am motivated and it'll be like 10 times in a week. Like I'll just go twice. But then like last week I probably went twice and it wasn't like super productive. Damn. But no, like today I decided like if you go, you get like your half hour in, get something done, you go back later, then all of a sudden it's a great day. You know, if you make this kind of like a little mini bonus workout, but we'll see if it comes to this point. So,
All right.
how many times a week do you go to the gym?
I just go in the morning. I get there like 5:30.
Oh, wow.
And I go like 5:30 to like 7. Every day, Monday through Friday. Consistency is key.
No
what I'm saying?
weekends.
No weekends.
Okay.
Every now and then I'll do a Saturday, like if I know I'm gonna like have a couple drinks at the bar or get ready for like a good Sunday, I'll go and try to like burn a
Okay.
couple calories.
I usually
You know.
get there more often on the weekends because college football starts at 10. And so it's nice to go down there at like 8:30 and then listen to like some podcasts about what's going on, make some bets, and then head up. Same thing Sundays because we don't really work until typically like noon or so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alex in the Toyota chat, one up in you, Todd, says 4:30 a.m. gym crew here. Slight flex.
I don't think that's a flex
Early
though
bird gets
because
the worm.
that just means
That's
you
a
go to
flex.
bed at like 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's
which
flex.
is like a nerd. I don't know.
What are we in high
Wow.
school?
I mean,
Calling him out.
I just feel like that's when things happen, right? Like
Okay.
that's when if you want to watch a basketball game or football, like you gotta.
Or you just don't sleep.
Yeah.
6 hours.
But
Or-
speaking of a
that's not
guy
good.
that probably is in the gym around 5:30 or so, Justin Simmons. He's returning to Denver this week since the Broncos moved on from him for the very first time. What are the emotions going to be here?
I think it's gonna be, I guess, emotional for the fans. I know that, you know, walking around the city, even at the stadium, you see a lot of Justin Simmons jerseys even still. So I think, you know, the fans will be happy to see. I don't think there'll be any bad emotions from anybody. He didn't have like this tumultuous relationship with the fans or anything. Like
Yeah.
everybody loved him. So I think it's gonna be great to have him back. And then for him, I don't know. I'll sit down and talk with him later on in the week and see how he's feeling.
Little tease.
We'll shoot that out to you guys once it's done. But I think it'll be good energy, good vibes, and it'll be great to be back in Denver.
I totally agree. I think it's only going to be positive. Except there might be some fans that are a little sad that the Broncos moved on from him. So now that we're 10 games into an actual football season after the Broncos decide to move on from Justin Simmons, did the team make the right move?
I mean, yeah, I think they definitely did. It'd be really nice to have him, but the truth is he just doesn't really fit the Broncos timeline. Just being an older player, and he would have brought something to the team, of course. And that week you didn't have PJ when the Ravens just torched the back end of your defense. It would have been really nice to have him. You could just imagine, like, it would make the defense better if you have Simmons out there. You're bringing PJ in off the bench, but that's kind of a luxury at a time when, it makes sense to not overinvest in the 2024 Broncos because that, the future is brighter than the present. Surprisingly, the present's pretty bright too, though.
What about like money aside? Like, because my thought process is like, I think we're playing great as a team. I think our safeties are playing really well, but I don't know if we're playing like all pro good, Pro Bowl good. I think we're playing really solid. So I think anytime you subtract that caliber of player from your team, it's hard to say you just made the right decision.
Yeah,
Totally.
money aside, I agree. It was
Yeah.
the wrong decision, but money is a big deal with
What's
this.
money? Money is not,
Well, you want to give me your paycheck?
No,
I'll be cool with that.
I can't
Well,
do
what's money, Todd?
it's nothing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
It's a good point, though, because, like, money aside, this would be a much better defense. Like, all of a sudden, you go from, like, yeah, it's a good group. It's probably one of the 10 best defenses in the NFL. You put Justin Simmons in there, it does really level everything up. And you just think about what Vance Joseph could do. Because all of a sudden, PJ, or maybe Brandon Jones, you don't know for sure, is kind of a spare. You bring him in for rush packages or when you go dime, and that's just an awesome weapon to have. Even going back, like there was a play where the Chiefs put 4 safeties on the field in a rush package last week. There's ways to use guys when you have that sort of depth. But I think the other part of the conversation we talked about money is that you gave Brandon Jones 3 years and $20 million, so just under $7 a year. Justin signed a 1 year, $7.5 million deal with the Falcons, and he wasn't gonna like renegotiate and take less money, probably with the Broncos. But it does sting that. I mean, he's costing less than $1 million more than Brandon Jones would, and as well as Brandon's playing, Justin is. I mean, he's an All-Pro.
Yeah, but you can't compare it that way. You have to compare the $15 million that Justin was going to make with the Broncos to the $7 million that Brandon Jones making here.
I don't know because I heard there was a lot of conversation about him coming back on a cheaper price tag.
So-
before he signed with the Falcons.
So after they cut him.
Yeah, sometime after. Yeah.
Oh, because my understanding before the Broncos decided to cut him, the Broncos kind of gave him a heads up it was coming, and Justin said, well, why don't we do an extension to lower the price hit now, but extend me, give me some guaranteed money now.
Extend?
Yeah, his agent. And the Broncos said, no, we'll do a pay cut, but not an extension right now. And two sides weren't able to agree. So they wanted him to take a pay cut if he was going to stay. But that's an interesting point. Would he have been better at the same price as Brandon Jones?
What do you think?
Sure, yeah. I mean, he's an all-pro. But one of the things that Justin Simmons really brought to this team was interceptions. And he was just an absolute playmaker. This year, maybe it would have been different in the Broncos defense. He has 1 interception with the Falcons. Brandon Jones has 1 interception with the Broncos. So that big piece that made Justin like such a game changer, it hasn't been there at least this year so far.
Yeah, I think he did a lot of things. Interceptions I think were his like highlight reel stuff. But I think he did a lot like in the run game and tackling. And no discredit to Brandon Jones. I think he's playing phenomenal football. I think he's playing better football than I expected him to play.
Agreed.
Definitely.
From the role that he had at the Dolphins. So kudos to him. I think he's playing well. Yeah. Now it's like the battle of the safeties on Sundays. Like we're gonna be watching these quarterbacks. We're gonna see like how Justin Simmons and Brandon Jones are playing.
Yep, totally. So, did the Broncos make the right decision?
I'd have to say no.
Okay, fair.
I have to say no.
Fair. Because finances are a big part of it.
Yeah.
And
the richest owners in football. We
Yeah.
always talk about it all the time.
But
We can buy
it's
whatever
cap
we want.
space.
Totally.
We're building a whole new facility
Cap
for
space.
hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, the thing is, if you paid him another $7.5 million, you could just say like we're splitting that extra $7.5 million compared to Brandon Jones over the next like 5 years, and it still would add up and it would matter in the long run. But
you still pay that $7.5 million.
totally, it does hit the books at some point. But you could, I mean, over the course of a long time, it wouldn't feel that big. You could have justified it if you really wanted
So
to.
right move.
This
or
is
no?
all Russ's fault. Let's be
It
honest.
is all Russ's fault. That is true.
You
That
got to
is
go
true.
back to the source.
Without a
because
doubt.
Yep.
$35 million more in cap space now. $7
Yeah.
million is
Yep.
not.
Oh.
It's nothing.
100%.
Absolutely. Yep. But no, I think it was the right decision. It was just time to move on.
I think after all this, you pretty much saying it was the wrong move, and then you just.
Oh no, I'm saying that's
All of your defense
I don't
was
think
that it
it's
was
like
the
a
wrong
terrible opinion or anything. Like I think there's merit on both sides. I lean toward the defense is fine. I'm curious how that Ravens game would have played out if you had a second safety, especially if in a world where it's a healthy Justin Simmons. How does that look? But I mean, you're
They
5-5.
still
You're
would
in
have
a
lost.
good
They
spot.
lost by 31 points. Shout out to Justin Simmons' number.
But
31.
I don't know.
Maybe
Like
that's
you,
why.
again, you look at that Chiefs game
a
though,
sign.
and there's just those couple of plays where all of a sudden it games flip quickly.
Okay, well, that's an entirely different game.
Oh,
You're talking
totally.
about a game that the Broncos lost by 2 as opposed to a game the Broncos lost by 31.
Yeah, but instead of being down 24-10 at halftime, you're looking at, I mean, maybe like 17-17. Like, and all of a sudden, how does it play out from there? So it's that game just got out of hand quickly, and there's a lot of different things that could have changed. But yeah, I think it was the right move. Although you did get worse because of it.
How about this? You say that the Broncos released Justin Simmons because of Russ. It was all his fault, and there is a lot of truth to that. I think Sean Payton would have done this regardless of Russell Wilson's dead cap. I don't think Sean Payton in today's NFL values the safety position to $15 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think in today's NFL he would have kept Justin Simmons at that price tag. I think they had to keep him last year, and Sean didn't want to ruffle those feathers his first year in here. But after, I think they would have moved on, unless Justin would have taken a big pay cut, half the money that he was supposed to get. So I think that regardless, Sean was making this decision from the get-go, which is fascinating. And now Justin Simmons has an opportunity to come into Denver and pick off Sean Payton's hand-picked quarterback with Bo Nix. Will that happen, guys? How does the Broncos offense attack this Falcons defense? Let's get into these matchups on both sides of the ball and really dive into the Falcons. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota, where over at Toyota, man, we haven't talked enough about the RAV4 plug-in. They've got some plug-in hybrids over at RAV4 or over at Toyota, which means it's part electric car. So you plug it in for the electric. It goes like 40, 50 miles on the electric. And then it kicks in to not just a gas car, but a hybrid car. So the gas mileage you get is just insane. And over at Toyota, they've got so many different types of cars, from hybrid to electric to plug-in. And you can check them out over at your Toyota stores near you. Visit your Front Range Toyota store at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR. Make sure to check them out, regardless of what type of car you're looking for. Toyota's got you covered.
Yep. And also check out Bet365. Bet365 is awesome. It's where I make all of my bets. And they make it really easy to make money. They put a bunch of boosts out there. So they say it's over 10,000 boosts per month. So you can go through and pick the things that you like. For any given game, like a Broncos game, for example, they'll have like 6 or 7 different parlays. They're boosted from like plus 550 to plus 650 or from whatever to whatever. And those little margins are what makes betting profitable at this point. So I love Bet365. They make watching sports a lot more fun, especially over, I think I'm profitable 6 of the last 8 weeks now, which is it's a good spot to be in. Again, Wouldn't happen without Bet365. Also, you can watch more sports with Bet365 because on top of their normal sign-up bonus, which is you deposit $5, or deposit $10, make a $5 bet, you get $200 in bonus bets. You also can get 2 months free or on Bet365 of Altitude Plus. So make sure you go take advantage of that. And use the code DNVR365 when you sign up to make that happen. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or somebody who has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, so this Atlanta Falcons defense, and shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. This Atlanta Falcons defense is not very good. And right now, when you take a big look at the Atlanta Falcons, they have the 12th worst scoring defense, giving up 24 points per game. They're giving up the 8th most yards per game, 352. They have the 8th worst passing defense, giving up 223 yards per game. They've got the 12th worst rushing defense, 130 rushing yards per game. And here's the big one. They've got the fewest sacks in the NFL. Only 9 sacks. They played 9 games, or no, they played 10 games. They're 6-4. They've only got 9 sacks. That's the fewest in the NFL. Is this defense really a bottom third defense?
Yeah, they're not playing well. I think if they play a little bit better, Falcons will probably have a better record. Not able to get to the quarterback. I think when you're not good at covering receivers downfield and then also can't get after the quarterback, that leads to a very long day. It's hard to get off the field when you can't put together rush and coverage. So I think that's their biggest problem right now. Hopefully the Broncos can exploit it. Besides Justin Simmons, I mean, they have a couple of names, but I don't know if anybody's playing at a really high level.
Well, kind of the crazy, I feel like they're, especially in pass defense, their sum is worse than their parts because their parts are A.J. Terrell, a Pro Bowl cornerback. They have Justin Simmons, an all-pro safety. They have what can't I think of his first name? Bates at safety. That arguably, James Palmer kept telling us that was the best safety duo in the NFL with Bates and Justin Simmons in Atlanta. And yet they have a bottom 10 pass or bottom 10 pass defense. My guess is it has to point back to that pass rush just being non-existent because you can have the no-fly zone out there, and the no-fly zone isn't going to look like the no-fly zone if they don't have Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, or if they just don't have a pass rush at all. They're still going to be good. They're not going to be the no-fly zone. And so I think that's what's really hurting this defense is just no pass rush.
Yeah, it's the edge rushers in particular because even like Grady Jarrett hasn't been ridiculously good, but a lot of that's just because there's nobody to keep quarterbacks in the pocket and make it easy for him to get sacks.
He leads the team in sacks at 2.5.
Totally.
2.5.
Yep. And the rest of the edge rushers, like I think they paid Matthew Judon quite a bit of money. It hasn't really worked out so far.
Well, they traded for him, right?
Oh, they trade?
Yeah, mid-season,
okay.
About a month ago.
Oh, there we go. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Arnold Ebiketie, Penn State guy, is the other one. Like they just don't have the pass rushers, and that's what takes everything down. And that's why you can run against them as well. The team as a whole is just like the most vanilla. Like that is the most average team that you're going to find in the NFL, just across the board. And part of it's because the defense is a little bit weak, but in theory, Bo should be able to make some plays this week, just because he's going to have time. He's going to be able to escape the pocket. So yeah, it should be fun to watch.
So pretty much a bottom third defense all the way around. How should the Broncos attack them?
Do whatever they want, really. Mm-hmm. I don't really think they should be scared or shy away from running the ball, throwing the ball. There's definitely plays there to be made, so I think the Broncos, especially Sean Payton, you can draw up kind of whatever you want. I probably would run, more outside runs, really pick on those edges. Yep. Take some shots on the outside against the corners one-on-one with your wide receivers. I think there's a lot of things you can do against this defense. They're not scary.
Yeah, I think this is the ultimate balance game for the Broncos. We've talked about the past 2 weeks, Broncos going up against great run defenses and okay to bad pass defenses, and it was like, hey, this is going to be a lot on Bo Nix. Not this game. Mm-hmm. This game you should be as balanced as you want, and there's no reason to drop Bo back 40 times in this game. This is going to be a big Audric Estime game. Last week, he was the Broncos' leading rusher. Sean said expect more of that moving forward, so expect Audric Estime to be the guy. And the biggest compliment that Audric Estime could have got in that game was being given the ball when the Broncos are just running the clock out. That says, we trust you. Because if you fumble here, you're losing us this game, and you're not seeing the ball the rest of the season. That was Sean's ultimate faith in Audric Estime. He held on to the ball, and it was not his fault that the Broncos lost that game. So expect him to be the lead back this week, and that's going to be a bruising back for this Atlanta Falcons defense to have to stop. So I think it's going to be extremely balanced, 50-50 in this game.
I'm so glad the game didn't end like that. Like, I'd much rather have the kick block than Estime fumble. Like, everybody would have been on his head. It would have been bad.
It would have been very bad.
I was kind of surprised going back because it feels like Estime had a great game. Like, if you were just to watch that, you leave the game saying, like, oh, he was awesome. Like, that's your starter. But then you look, so his first 3 carries, 8 yards, 6 yards, 10 yards, which is great, obviously. 24 yards on 3 carries. After that, though, the next 11 carries went for 19 yards, I believe. And so it really did drop off. And some of that's that late, they didn't really get anything going. But 9 of his last 11 carries for 3 yards or less. But because he had that hot start, it just feels a little bit different.
I mean, the Broncos' offense was non-existent outside of the third quarter and the very final drive of the game. Now, they did enough to win the game because they got him to a 35-yard field goal. That's enough to win. But first quarter, it was something like the Broncos had 15 yards of offense. Second quarter, they exploded. It was actually second quarter when they went off. Had 150 yards of offense. Third quarter, 12 yards of offense. And then the fourth quarter, before that final drive, negative 2 yards of offense. The offense was really non-existent. Obviously scored no points in the second half here. So I'm not surprised that Audric didn't have an incredible game, but it is a game that I think Sean's going to build off of.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Chiefs give up 3.7 yards per carry. He had 3.8, so it's not like it was a terrible day. But yeah, I'm curious to see what the running back rotation looks like. But to me, the Falcons' defense, like, you don't really have to game plan. It's just you just go out there, you run your offense, and whatever happens, happens. Like, you probably tried. You don't want to test them deep necessarily because that's their strength. But I mean, it's not like the Broncos are doing that much deep passing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, AJ Terrell, maybe you could be scared of him, but after Court just went and torched Trent McDuffie on Sunday, there's really no reason to think that he can't do the same to Terrell. So it, to me, is just get your favorite plays, go run them, and it should work out just fine.
That touchdown that Bo had to Court, that was the first pass of 20 yards or more that McDuffie has allowed this season. And Bo picked on him on a crucial third down in that game and got over 30 yards on that touchdown. Okay, let's flip to the other side of the ball. Let's look at this Falcons offense where, man, for years they were only a quarterback away. At least that's what we were told, because they've got Kyle Pitts. They've got Drake London. They've got Bijan Robinson. They've got Tyler Algier. They have so many weapons. All they needed was a quarterback. Well, they went and got a quarterback that can put up stats. And it hasn't translated so far. Right now, they're averaging 23.8 points per game, which is 13th most in the NFL. That's not what the Falcons signed up for when they brought Kirk Cousins here. Now, it's only 10 games in to his tenure. We saw how things flipped around with Payton here, so maybe it flips around for them. But this offense is not nearly as dangerous, at least as a lot of people were expecting right now. Is that how you guys feel? Are you not worried about this offense, or do you look at it's kind of just like their defense? The sum is not as good as the parts, at least right now. So are you worried about this offense? Not worried about this offense?
No, they can't. They haven't clicked yet. They're trying to find ways to put this puzzle together with all these big name, household name pieces, and they just haven't done it yet. And I hope they don't find a way to do it this week. They have a couple of drives that look really good, and Bijan looks good on some of his runs. Kyle Pitts is involved sometimes. Drake London, I think, is a good player, but they just haven't figured it out yet. I don't know what's the problem, if it's Kirk or they have a winning record, so they're not the worst in the NFL, but I just don't think that they are as dominant as everybody expected. Once they paid Kirk all that money, you saw the piece he already had. They're like, Falcons to the Super Bowl, possibly.
Yep.
And it's just not looking like that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of been impressed by what I've seen. I'm a little surprised the numbers don't back it up. I mean, again, like you go back, they're 5th in yards. I wonder if I can get the red zone numbers real quick.
Well, they're not.
I would imagine. Yeah, I'd imagine you're just not converting those into points. Like 5th in yards per drive, 6th in plays per drive. So staying on the field, like they're pretty productive. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, both on pace for 1,100-yard seasons, which is like a nice 1-2 combo because you got the big guy who's your precision receiver. You got the little guy who looks pretty good now that he's not playing for the Bears anymore. Like it works out. Kyle Pitts does the things that Kyle Pitts does. Bijan running for almost 5 yards per carry. Like they've got good pieces. Maybe the offensive line isn't great. Kirk is Kirk. Like he's good enough to get the job done, but he isn't gonna elevate everybody. Like that's why I kind of still just look at this whole team together. It's just like pretty vanilla, pretty just it is. That's dead average in the NFL.
Well, and you mentioned how they're good in yards, and they are in terms of passing yards. Rushing yards are about average, but total yards, they have the 5th most yards in the NFL. But yards don't score points. Yards don't win games, and they're not good in third down, and they're not good in the red zone. So that's what this game's going to come down to, is the defense's ability to stop them on third down, the defense's ability to hold them in the red zone, where the Broncos' defense is good at, and the Falcons are not good at. So don't be surprised if you see 60-yard drives for the Falcons that take up 8 minutes of clock, and then they settle for a field goal. That is the Broncos' way to winning this game. It's just buckle up in the red zone. This Falcons offense can move the ball, but also I think a big difference with this Kirk Cousins that we're seeing this year, he has 8 interceptions so far this season. He's not a guy that typically throws 15 interceptions in a season. If they go on a 8-play, 60-yard drive, and then he throws a pick at the 20-yard line, that is just crushing for this Falcons defense because they're used to long drives, and they just don't capitalize on them. So if they're not scoring any points off them, that's the way the Broncos win. One key interception, and then just winning the third down and red zone battle here. And that's a formula for success for the Broncos. So maybe the Broncos give up more yards than they typically do, but just be stout. Not great, just stout in the red zone on third down. The Broncos will definitely have an upper hand in this game, I think.
Yeah, and those are the two, I think, biggest factors that tell whether you're a good offense or a good defense. Third down and red zone. Because if you manage to, have a winning percentage on third down, you're going to be able to extend drives. And then also, if you can score in the red, that's all that matters is scoring in this game. And so having a high red zone percentage offensively or defensively, that says a lot about who you are as a team. And we're pretty good in the red zone. We're pretty good on third down. That's what makes us good, because even if we give up 9 yards on first, second down, if we find a way to get off the field on 3rd and 1, all is forgiven, nothing really happens. So I think that that will be the deciding factor of this game. Is primarily third down.
Broncos, 4th best red zone defense in the NFL, so that gives you a lot of hope there. And also, playing at home, this team's been on the road in some pretty hostile environments, although Kansas City, I said it yesterday, wasn't as hostile as I was expecting. But now they get the fans in the crowd on their side in this game. So we're getting our guy Baldy joining us in just a minute to ask him about this game, ask him about the Chiefs game, ask him about the Broncos. And before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Westoff Credit Union, where they were founded right here in Colorado in 1934. They've got 9 locations in the Denver metro area, and they're all about helping their members financially prosper. Education is their thing. They were started by a group of 8 school teachers, so helping others is in their DNA, and you see that come through in every interaction they have. And right now, they've got their Smart Money checking account, which is awesome to make small balances earn big returns. You can earn up to 6% annual percentage yield on your first $2,000 each month. That's $120 a year. Then your next chunk of cash will make you 3% APY and so on. In addition to your interest you earn, this account also comes with a rewards debit card, has no monthly or maintenance fees, and so much more. So if you're interested to learn more, go to westeracu.com/smartmoney for more details. Membership eligibility required, insured by NCUA. Restrictions and conditions apply.
A shout out to UC Health and, all they're doing to really help men with their health, because data shows right now that men are more reluctant to seek health care. And I think it's important to, stay ahead of the ball, take care of yourself, make sure your body is healthy, because you only get one. You got to take care of your body, your mind, you only get one. They're doing that and helping people out. by trying to make it easy for you. They have online scheduling, other convenient services. You can get the UC Health app. You can download to get started. It doesn't have to be a strenuous process. You don't have to make a lot of phone calls, but you get the app. You can check it out, and you can do what you need to do to stay ahead of your health. So men out there, I want you to take care of yourselves. It's No Shave November, but if you need to shave to feel good, you got to do what you got to do. Let's talk about your tomorrow. Join the men's health conversation at uchealth.org/men's health.
Todd, I'm going to eventually ask Baldy this question, but I want to ask you, do you believe in moral victories?
I mean, I guess, because I guess what we have to call what happened last week.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I'm saying
you
that's
don't
what
have to
we-
call it. That
that's what
seems
we-
like you don't want to.
I don't want to. It doesn't feel good, but I mean, ultimately, I wasn't like, I was pissed at the block kick, but I found more good than bad. So I guess you have to call that a moral victory, right?
Now, in 2015, could you guys have moral victories?
No.
Okay. So you could have moral victories depending on where you're at in terms of like an organization.
Yeah, we had to win.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
There was never
Even like the Patriots game, because that'd be the one where like you're playing a really good team. If you had lost, like in overtime, not the playoff game, but that one, could you leave that one saying like, oh, at least we?
No, we were in it to win it. Like,
Yeah.
they were a good team, but we were a good team. So anytime we lost, it was just we lost. It doesn't matter how well you play, you did not get the job done. So that's how we felt.
I totally agree.
That's-
I think it depends on where you're at.
I still feel like I don't see much of moral victory on Sunday just because I don't feel like I learned anything new. Like they played well. I thought they would play well, and it seems like, I don't know. I don't play on the team, but if I did, it seems like everybody else would kind of just say like, this is the expectation. I don't know that anybody comes out of that game saying like, oh look, we can do it.
Not right after losing by 31 points to Baltimore in Baltimore.
I mean, that's
Wasn't
just
this? I feel like that kind of added to this being a moral victory. Well, we'll continue this conversation because we've got our guy Brian Baldinger joining us right now. Baldy, how's it going?
Well, things are going well, guys. Good to be with you. Sorry about the final play of the game the other day. It's a shame, but I always say this, Zach, that going into a season, you always hope you can win 2 games because of your special teams. And you really hope that you don't lose 2 games because of your special teams. And I feel like the Broncos lost a big game because of their special teams.
Well, that's a really good point, Baldy, and a really fascinating way to look at it for the Broncos. And that is one where at the end of the season, they might be looking back saying, man, if only we had that one play back. And I want to start right there with that play, Baldy. There's been a lot of film review since that play where Alex Forsythe, as that position, just has been pushed back so many times there. So is that on him where he shouldn't get pushed back? Is that on coaching because it's been on tape so much? Or is that just all credit to Kansas City for noticing it and exploiting it?
No, that's Dave Tobe, examining, the Broncos protection schemes, and there was a weakness there and they overloaded it. It was an overload block right at it. And they didn't use it during the game. They used it when they had to, and they pulled it out and they overloaded that side. And anybody that has to block or try to handle Leo Chenal, they know how strong he is. He's just an anvil of strength, and they overpowered it. I don't know if the kick was going to get up high. It was going to make it, but I didn't still think it was like the vertical lift on the kick got up where they wanted it. But still, Chenal just overran him, and they got through. And they made the play when they had to make the play. They saved it.
It's been a tough couple of days for Alex Forsythe on social media. A lot of Broncos fans saying like you've got to cut him just to send a message. I'm curious just because I know that you appreciate what he did as the fill-in starter for the Broncos. Can you talk some sense into them?
Well, everybody has like a lot of they put Quinn Miners. He's at their left guard spot. I think that. It's not on Forsythe. That's just a weakness that got exposed, and he got run over. But he shouldn't be cut because of that play. There's other guys you could put in there that are bigger, stronger, maybe more stout when they get overloaded like that. And so everybody's scouting everybody's weakness in this league and trying to figure out how we can exploit it. The Chiefs did it. Give them credit to it. But at the same time, Alex, I think Forsythe has earned a spot on this team, and I wouldn't cut him. I mean, he might still be a valuable member of this team as a center right now.
Baldy, I want to keep talking about the O-line. I felt like the O-line really held up against Chris Jones last week and did a great job in protection, but it felt like they kind of missed a couple blitzes and they had some free runners on Bo Nix. How does the O-line do a better job of diagnosing the blitzers?
I don't know if that's on the line, honestly, because that's what Spags does. He gets the free hitters, whether it's Trent McDuffie or wherever they're coming from. They're the only team in the league that plays as many three linebacker sets in this league right now. When they look at Bolton, who came free a couple of times, Tranquil and Chanel, like Spags just figured out a way to get three big, fast linebackers on the field. Most teams, they're just trying to keep two linebackers on the field. The Chiefs play three, and it's hard in the run game. They figured out how to not get exposed in the passing game, and they really haven't. So I feel like Spags just, like his overloads and his pressures, and when he calls it, he went zero blitz on them, and the Broncos didn't pick it up, and they didn't anticipate it midfield when it came. But that's really a sign of any great pressure team is they call it when you kind of least expect it.
Baldy, you're the ultimate football guy out there. So I want to ask you this question. Do you believe in moral victories? And if so, did the Broncos have that on Sunday, coming 2-point shot, a 35-yard field goal away from beating the Chiefs and handing them their first loss of the season?
I don't believe in it. That was a gut punch. It was on the road. It was a winnable game. They went there and won last year. I think the guys on the team felt like they played well enough to win the game. And should have won the game, and it comes down to a kick that you think should be a routine play, but it isn't clearly. It never is. I mean, kickers miss field goals, protection schemes get picked up and get exploited. But I don't believe in a moral victory right now. I mean, I feel like the Broncos believe, especially after losing the way they did the week before in Baltimore, they knew this was going to be a tough stretch, but whether you feel like you played well enough to win, you didn't win it. You didn't get on that plane and go home a winner, and that's a horrible feeling, regardless of how it happens.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but now you go into another game that could be kind of tough. I mean, the Falcons have a winning record. They haven't played perfect football to this point, but I'm just curious how you see this game, just in terms of overall difficulty for the Broncos. Are the Falcons a team that they should be scared of? Should this be one that at home should be maybe not an easy win, but one that you should really expect to win?
Well, I mean, the Falcons lost to the Saints. They made a change at the head coaching position, and Darren Rizzi took over. Look, I mean, I don't care what level analyst you think you are. You better study that Saints roster, because I didn't know who some of those guys were. But they picked up Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He burned him for 2 touchdowns. It was the whole difference in the game. Well, 2 touchdowns, but one play that set up a second touchdown, a 67-yard. They hit their go routes. That's all they really did. They didn't really do a whole lot more, to be honest with you. They didn't really stop Bijan Robinson or Tyler Algier. They had a ton of yards. They hit them on big plays. Now, the good thing is, Bo Nix hit Cortland Sutton against one of the better corners in the league last week. I think they're going to have to hit some big plays against the Falcons team. You got to go over the top on them, like the Saints did last week, and that's how they won that game, and that's what I think you're going to have to do, because the Falcons are a good offense. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. They run the ball very well. You might have to find some big plays in this game to beat this team.
Baldy, we were talking about the game plan to beating the Falcons, and we thought that it's best that they are a balanced team, at least the Denver Broncos are, and kind of starts with the running game. And Audric Estime, was the Broncos' leading rusher last week. How did you feel about his performance, and do you feel like he'll have another good one this week?
Well, I felt like we talked about how I think they're going to go to a bigger back. Last week we talked about this, and they did. Yeah. And they needed, you got to kind of punish these defenses now. And there's nothing against Jaleel or Devontae, but they're smaller guys. And while they might break tackles and beat you with some quickness, they don't really pound you. And I thought that was a good move, and he played well, and he pushed the pile, and he put his head down, and I think you're going to see more of it. And I think going forward, the Broncos need a more of a power running game to kind of balance out some of the other backs that they have.
And Baldy, another thing that you talked about last week, you said, man, I don't know if anyone could have expected more from Bo Nix this season. And I agree with you. And then he goes out and arguably outplays Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead against a great Chiefs defense. Just how impressed were you with him last week? And then just continued like overall growth that he's having.
I mean, it's something to watch. I mean, it's really great because I feel like they clearly have the quarterback of the future, and it's been 10 years since anybody in Denver Bronco land could say that since Peyton Manning retired. And even that last year, I mean, the defense won. But, I mean, they got a quarterback. And Chicago doesn't know if they do or not right now. I mean, you go around the league and you look at some of these quarterback situations, and the Raiders firing their coordinator and the Bears firing theirs, because the quarterback isn't performing well. Well, Sean Payton's in charge of developing his quarterback. He's balanced up this offense as much as he can to stay competitive. We're seeing a lot of young guys kind of step up, Ville and some of these guys, Esteme, like the rookies are out there. We know that they didn't have a lot of draft capital. They know they didn't have a lot of money to spend, but yet they're still developing their young players. I don't care where they come or how they get there. Like, that's getting done. And they're competitive, and they're in the hunt. So I'm impressed all the way around.
I'm curious what you think of Courtland Sutton, too, because he's had, I guess he made a couple pretty big mistakes last week with the drop over the middle before halftime. There's the slant that he dropped, too, but still finishes the game, 6 catches on 9 targets, 70 yards of the touchdown. Week before, 122 yards. Week before, 100 yards. Where does Courtland Sutton stand to you? Is he a true wide receiver one? Could he be a focal point of an offense?
Well, the first thing you have to know about Courtland is like, the character of the guy is beyond reproach. Like, the guy has, like, just coming out of SMU, like, that guy is a pro. And I think he practices the right way, he prepares, like, all those kind of things, like, you have it. He doesn't have great speed. But I think he's probably a solid number 2. Probably been pushed into that role of number 1 because of injuries and what they've had in Denver. But I think everybody looks at these things different. But I feel like he's a solid number 2 guy that can win, that can beat your number 2 corner. He beat the Chiefs' number 1 corner, McDuffie, last week, over the top. And he knows how to play low post basketball when the ball's in the air. He's a big body. So you want him on your roster. I don't know the finances of it and, how you have to kind of evaluate all those things. But I'd want Courtland Sutton on my team.
Baldy, Justin Simmons is making his way back, to Denver. And he's been playing pretty well out there in Atlanta. Is he playing at a level where, Sean Payton really needs to dial up the game for him? Or can Bo go out there and, do his thing and connect with Courtland and they should have a good game plan?
They've got a good back end to their defense, but I wouldn't say that Justin Simmons is lighting it up right now. He's got 1 interception. He's defended some passes. He's a good tackler, all that kind of stuff. Him and Jesse Bates form a really good team back there. But I wouldn't say that the move that Denver made was the wrong move. They moved on. Does Bo Nix have to live in fear of Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons? I think they have combined something like 50-something interceptions, in their careers. I mean, it's ridiculous. Nobody even comes close to it. But you can't play the game in fear. Like, I don't care who's in the back end. Like, you've got when the opportunities present themselves to attack and be aggressive, you've got to take those shots.
Baldy, final one for you. Taking a big picture look at where the Broncos stand, they still are holding on to the final wild card spot at 5-5. We talked about this yesterday, just what team we think gives the Broncos the biggest concern to take that from, and we all decided it was the 4-6 Bengals, because on one hand you have Joe Burrow playing in an MVP level, and on the other hand, the Bengals defense is really bad. How concerned should the Broncos be about the Bengals seriously making a run here down the stretch?
Well, look, Cincinnati has lost games this year, even when they've scored 38 points, because they make mistakes. And that's what they did in both games against Baltimore, with chances to win both games. I mean, you've got to be concerned because Joe Burrow, if he gets T. Higgins back in the lineup, they're an elite offense. But at the same time, like, Denver can't be looking in the rearview mirror. I mean, the Chargers are playing great football. They're the number one defense in football right now. They go through games without giving up touchdowns. Can they put 3 teams in from the AFC West right now? I would just be looking ahead. And if Cincinnati puts a streak of games together, I mean, you would think that Joe Burrow at an MVP level can do that. But to me, it's all about going forward and starting to stack some wins like they did a year ago about this time of the year, when I think they won like 5 games in a row. They took the ball away at record levels. Like, I would just be concerned about my performance in my game and taking care of business against Atlanta this weekend.
I love that, Baldy. Maybe next week we're talking about the start of a 5-game win streak for the Broncos. Love your analysis. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, guys. I'll talk to you next week. Enjoy.
Right on. Thanks, Baldy. Man, always love getting his insight today. And I also love when we give a shout out to our friends over at HelloFresh. You guys want delicious food delivered straight to your door? HelloFresh is going to hook you up with that, because the holiday season is just around the corner and we've got so many different things on our plate. Let HelloFresh take care of the meal planning for you with their hassle-free, delicious, home-delivered, chef-curated recipes that come together quicker and are less expensive than takeout. Step out of your recipe rut and make fun, flavorful meals without needing to hunt for special ingredients. That's what HelloFresh is going to do for you. I love HelloFresh. It's sent right to you, and it's super easy, really convenient, and also just absolutely delicious. So get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free Broncos. That's applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, and it varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free Broncos. It's also, make sure to check them out. Use that code free Broncos over at HelloFresh.com/free Broncos, America's #1 meal kit.
Also, check out Empire today if you need some new floors, because floors are important. I mean, think of all the time that you spend on floors. Like, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, hours a day. So you don't want to have bad floors. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Are we on a floor right now?
That's what I was trying to decide.
I mean, our feet are on floors.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a rug.
Well, both, but it's on a floor.
Okay, still, you don't want a floor that's going to get scratched by the chairs or the rugs or whatever else. That's just one of the many reasons floors are so important. If you need floors, then you should check out Empire today. They've got a bunch of cool tools, like their virtual floor designer, so that you can basically, it's like, show it what your room looks like or your home looks like. It'll just sub in all the different floors so you can see what it looks like. Plus, you can schedule a free in-home estimate. All you have to do is go to empiretoday.com/DNVR. Again, you'll use that promo code DNVR. You'll receive a $350 off discount on top of that free in-home estimate. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details.
And shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Okay, fellas, some news. Speaking of special teams, a lot of talk about that over the past 48 hours. There's news dropped last night. The Broncos assistant head coach and special teams guru, Mike Westoff, has resigned from the Broncos due to health reasons. From my understanding of the situation, last week, midweek on Wednesday, he was in a meeting and had a little cloudy vision, and his eye got treated from the Broncos medical staff. Then it still bothered him a little bit, so this past Monday he got an MRI to get it checked out, and it came back that if he were to continue to be in long, stressful hours like the NFL requires, as you know more than anyone, Todd, that the vision problem could get worse. And he decided, look, I'm 76. I turn 77 in 2 months from now. I'm going to just retire now, resign right now, go back to retirement, because he was in retirement before Sean called him out. And so now he's going back to Florida now. So the Broncos will be without Mike Westoff for the rest of this season going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. I mean, he's a good coach. But it's probably for the best because it's a stressful job, and he puts a lot of stress on himself. Like, he has energy,
does.
you know what I'm saying? He's yelling, he's vocal, he wants the team to do good. So I think he puts himself in a stressful situation. So I think your health is always first. Like we said with Tua, I mean, he's come back and everything's been solid right now, but I think health is always first. It should be. So I hope he, has a good retirement with his kids and puts his feet in the sand and, has a couple beers or something.
Hopefully the third retirement is one that sticks for him.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'll miss him. He obviously, he's one of the best special teams coordinators ever. I also think that it was nice to have him for a year and a half. And because you had him for a year and a half, you've gained a lot of those benefits. Again, still helpful week to week for the scouting and those sorts of things, but you would imagine for the most part you're kind of set up in what you're doing for the rest of the year. So hopefully the impact isn't that big and he gets to enjoy retirement. The Broncos, I mean, even before that one play, even in that game, the Broncos have made some good special teams plays. You think of Traymon Smith making the tackle at like the 4-yard line, 1-1 in space. That's tough to do. And the Broncos have one of the 3 or 4 best special teams units in the NFL. And I think that's still true after Sunday. It makes it weird, but even without Westoff, I think they'll be in good shape.
And he deserves all the credit in the world. I mean, the Broncos had arguably the worst special teams, not just the year before he got here, but for years before. They were flipping through special teams coordinators left and right. He comes in and immediately, last year they go from last in the league to top 10. Then this year they take another jump, obviously before Sunday's game. But one thing I want to make clear, because some people in the Twitter chat have mentioned this, he's going to be okay. His health is okay. This was more of a precautionary health thing. Even he tweeted out this morning. He is okay. It's just...
He tweets?
He tweets.
Oh,
yeah.
He tweets a lot.
At 76 years old, he tweets almost 77. Yeah, you do. He's okay. So his health is by far the most important thing, of course, but he is okay. It's just precautionary. And he's a guy he's had cancer in the past before, so he knows how important his health is, and he just decided, man, I'd rather see for the rest of my life than coach the Broncos special teams for 2 more months. Fair, yeah. I think it's a really good point here. But man, it does, with how Sunday's game ended, you're like, man, do we want to lose him? Do we want to keep him? Like, we do want to keep him around. I'm sure Sean wanted to, because Broncos, he's done a great job turning him around. And now do you keep Alex Forsyth in as that guy? Do you switch him out with someone else? Is there technique that he needs to be coached up on? Like, that's a big question right now, because if Alex Forsyth's in there, the Atlanta Falcons, maybe not on the first field goal, but if there's ever a game-ending field goal and Alex Forsyth's in there, they're going to try to do the exact same thing.
Without a doubt. You got to switch somebody out, put a D lineman in there. It's rare for defensive guys to be on, like, field goal. But I think you should try, one of your bigger bodies, JFM, I don't know, somebody in there who can be a little bit more stout. What if that was like the straw that broke the camel's back and Mike's like, yeah, I'm out here. I'm done with this. That's enough.
I mean, how crazy is this for him? He's, as Henry said, one of the best special teams coordinators in the history of the NFL. Yep. You can just look back at stats. We broke it down, too, when the Broncos hired him, of how good of a hire it was. And probably his last play is going to be that one.
That sucks.
I mean, yeah, it does suck, but
luckily he's assistant head coach. He's not special teams coordinator or anything.
Right.
So we all know he spends a lot of time working with special teams, but that
wasn't me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to just say no, it's somebody else. Especially
he'll think about it.
A guy like that who's going to be remembered as one of the best. Like 50 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, oh yeah, assistant head coach.
To be fair, though, I mean, it was pretty clear, at least last year, and from my understanding, I mean, he was working full time this year too. Yeah. He was the assistant special teams coach, but in the special teams rankings, assistant head coach. Yeah, thank you. It went him, then special teams coordinator Ben Kutwika, then Chris Banjo, the assistant special teams coordinator. Like, they did this, and Sean even pointed to this earlier this year. When you have wealthy owners and you can hire whoever you want, there's no salary cap on the coaches that you can bring in. There's obviously a salary and the money that you spend on coaches. There's no salary cap there. So Sean admitted, when we bring in pass rush specialists, that's just a way for us to pluck another guy from a different team and give them an upgrade in title, but just have another coach in the outside linebackers room that can also go into the defensive line room. Like, that's an advantage that we have with wealthy owners that are willing to spend money on this team. I think that's what Mike Westoff was. Like, he wasn't really sure if he wanted to be a full-time special teams coordinator. But hey, if they brought someone in to be the special teams coordinator, he'd be happy to come in and really be the boss of the special teams above him. So I'm curious to see how this unfolds over the next, not this week necessarily, although there is a question with the field goal unit, what's going to happen, but more so over the next 18 months, what happens?
They've got a good staff in place. Things are going well. I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. But he definitely was
Oh, absolutely.
the special teams coach.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
But technically, he was not, which means, and when
That
you
happens
look
all
at
the
the Jerry
time.
Ross, or not Jerry Ross, but the Mike Westoff stats, this will not be there.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, you're right. Ben Kutwika's had a great 18 months as the Broncos special teams coordinator.
But he's a good coach, too.
He
Same
is.
with
And
Banjo.
Banjo, yeah.
Like,
They're
they'll be
set.
just fine.
Yeah.
And they do a lot, especially, like, everybody has a role, I think, like, on the coaching staff. So even though he was there and kind of, like, running it, like, everybody has a position. So, like, you talk about that gunner going down to make the tackle, that's all Chris Banjo. Like, that's what he does. He works with, like, everybody has a role. So I don't think they're losing a big piece, but they are good coaches.
They've had Damari in there as a gunner, too, which is interesting because I'm sure he's done it at some point, but I don't remember seeing it. But it seems like they've kind of been rotating through. I'm trying to remember who they had before it was Damari, because he was playing really well. I talked to Traymon about him. But point is, they've done a great job coaching all those guys up.
Yeah.
Like even JL Skinner, what he's done. Like talking to Traymon, he's like, yeah, it's basically like having another gunner out there, even though he plays like more of a wing spot, just because he gets down the field so quickly. So they've got the talent. They figured out how to put guys in the right spot. Like the Broncos are investing in guys like Traymon Smith to make their special teams good. They're gonna be fine.
I mean, they even had Pat Surtain out there on a punt unit earlier this season, and I think because he wasn't used to it, he got a flag on that play, which was kind of crazy.
I think he might have been in for one of those late punts. Maybe the last punt. I couldn't tell because
Don't put me in.
he was on the field so quickly after, like giving it was Traymon. It was the play Traymon made at the end. Pat was giving him high five so quickly that I was like, wait, was he on the field or he just get in there so quickly?
He does not need to be on no punt team.
No.
I know it's good for the team. It looks good to have your star players on punt, and everybody cares about special teams. Seen it happen too often. Josie Jewell
True.
started for the Broncos, leader in tackles, goes on and tears his freaking pec,
Yep.
bicep, whatever, on special teams. That's
kickoff, yeah.
Special teams matters, guys. That's where I got my start, so I have a love for it. But after you are starting and you are making your way and you're a leader on the team, you don't need to play special teams anymore.
Especially
He was not out
this
there.
This would come from like Greg Penner. If I'm Greg Penner, I just paid Pat how much money
Yeah, that's
and how much
crazy.
is guaranteed? No, he's going to be our starting cornerback, especially on punt coverage like that, or punt, not coverage, but punt. There's two guys. It's gonna be 1 against 2 in those situations. Not putting Pat out there for that.
Not at all.
He was running down the field.
And
You
clearly
gotta
he
make a
wasn't used
tackle at
to
the
it.
end.
It's too easy.
Like it's different if you're like lining a guy up in the trenches or like kickoffs where there's more collisions. Like that's what got Josie. I think if you're just sending a guy running down the field, Pat's gonna be fine. I don't think there's a need to do it often, but if you're covering
Never.
a punt in the fourth quarter,
Absolutely
they throw it
never.
out there. I'm not gonna roast him for it.
If I was the head coach and you were my special teams coordinator and you had Pat out there for one play, you're gone.
Wow. And then
outta
all of a
here.
sudden they break a long
I'm
punt
calling-
return,
I'm
and I say,
calling
look,
Mike.
guess who you have right there.
Mike, you got to come back out of retirement for the third time.
Wow.
You can work part time.
For sure.
Come play gunners
Just
up, Pat.
zoom us. Just zoom us what we need to do.
Man, this has been quite the show. We've talked about Justin Simmons. If that was the right decision. We've talked about the Atlanta Falcons offense, Atlanta Falcons defense. Anything you guys want to say about the Atlanta Falcons special teams? Because we've talked about everything with the Broncos special teams.
Younghoe Koo, right?
Yeah.
Is he still good? Is that
That
still
was-
how we say his name?
Young Ho.
Young Goku, baby.
Yeah. Oh, how'd you say it?
Young Wei.
Oh.
That's how you actually say it.
Oh.
Young
But they
Wake.
just write it the other
Phonetically,
way.
it's different.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes
Because
sense.
he's Korean. Korea say Korean.
Started
Yeah.
off with the Chargers, and he had like a miserable start to his career with them, so they cut him, and then has had a wonderful career with the Falcons now. So Chargers just continue to Charger. Now, we'll be back tomorrow with our final picks for the weekend, including will the Broncos win? Shout out to Baldy for joining us. Shout out to Todd. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to you here. And we'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m., DNVR Broncos Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.